Okay, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to the INSEAD Innovation Club Belgium, the second event. We're discussing today about the innovation efforts of different entities for bringing electric vehicles to market. And we have two guests tonight, Carl-Magnus Norden. He's an INSEAD alumnus, and he's a serial entrepreneur. And most recently, he's the founder of Volta Trucks. And Timothy Manuel, he's managing director Eastern Europe for Groupe Renault. So we thought we'll have a startup perspective and a corporate perspective on innovation to bring electric vehicles to market, which we believe will be a lively conversation tonight. So thank you for taking the time, both of you. Quickly, I'll run through a couple of considerations. So let's stay muted all time to avoid the distortion. We record the webinar and we'll make it available on the club's YouTube channel. And if you have some questions, please post them in the chat, and time allows, we'll address them. And that's about it. We'll take the screen share off, as we want to have a full conversation with Tim and Carl. But let me allow Carl to quickly introduce himself as well, and then I'll run a quick video to give you a brief visual on the Volta Trucks. So, Carl.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ian. So, as Ian is saying, my name is Carl-Magnus Norden. I am a serial entrepreneur since almost I graduated from INSEAD 1984. So that's the common denominator. I'm lying a little bit. I actually worked for a company in the UK for 4 years, but then after that I've been running my own ventures and doing that in different countries. So obviously I started in France and then going over to the UK, lived in Belgium for many years, and then also in the Czech Republic, Sweden, Switzerland, and now back to Sweden since 8 years. Yeah, I would say if I look at my relationship to INSEAD, I've been quite active. I was heading the Swedish Alumni Association over 4 years, retiring this summer. And before that, in some of the ventures, I've actually recruited quite a lot of people who work with a lot of MBAs. And in Volta Trucks, I think we are now 4 or 5. I have good experiences of that. I don't know if you want me to get into Volta Trucks and starting with that, or if I should stop there and then we run the video and maybe I come back. Maybe that's better.
Let's watch a quick video first to give an idea to the people who are not familiar with.
Yeah.
So see if I manage to share the sound as well. Yeah, I need to do it.
And while you get the technology going, I can say it's a fully electric vehicle we are producing, but we are very much concentrating on the cab and the work environment for the driver. And I come back to the reasons for that. But as you see, the whole front of the truck is totally different than any truck you see on the market right now.
Okay.
There are safety aspects of that, etc. But I come back to that.
Yeah, let's quickly test if we have the sound. So, you hear the sound?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's do it then. Excellent. So, Carl, please tell us more about your endeavor.
Yeah, so as you saw here, basically we have now come to a demonstrator that we're showing here. We launched it the 3rd of September. Going back, for me, the trigger for starting this venture was really when Elon Musk launched the Model 3. That was 1st of April 2016. And obviously we all know what happened. The car industry, I mean, everybody wanted to go into electric, and actually most of them came already to the show in Paris in September and said they should do something. We had the Volkswagens and the Mercedeses and Renault, etc., etc. So that to me was obviously there is a technology shift here, and as often in these technology shifts, a smaller startup coming from outside industry can have a possibility to enter the market and basically contribute and make a footprint. So that was one of the drivers. Of course, the other driver is really, well, the problem we all are facing together, which is climate change and pollution and so on and so on. So here I saw a very interesting opportunity to combine the two, creating a good, sustainable, and of course profitable company, and at the same time actually having an impact on climate change and so on. And from my point of view, it's really politicians in Sweden anyway are talking about, or did at the time and still are doing, that we should do something, but they talk about 2030, 2045 or something quite long in the future. And our idea was, okay, can we actually do something much more quicker than that? So time to market and being fast, etc., has been very important for us and is important going forward for two reasons. Obviously, we see a window of opportunity where the bigger OEMs are not filling at the moment, and the other thing is, of course, can we have an impact? So taking that forward from 2016, I really started acting properly on this sort of late 16, early 17. And then to learn something about the industry, I got in contact with a Dutch company that had been converting trucks for some years back from diesel to electric. I helped them basically into the market in Sweden, and that gave me the opportunity to go out and talk to customers. Because what I've learned of my sort of entrepreneurial experience is that it's a big benefit if you very early go out and talk to customer and try to understand their situation, their interest in what you're proposing, and whatever challenges they see, and of course, can you go back and do something about that? So we then raised our first financing in May of last year, 2019. And then we started the first drawings from a blank sheet of paper. And in 15 months, we had produced a demonstrator that you saw here now. And going forward, we plan to have the first 12 trucks on the roads in Paris and London by mid next year, and then full production in the second half of 2022, which is, of course, faster than most OEMs. So as I said, time to market and speed, etc., is very important for us. So I think that is quickly where we are. As I said, what was the problems I saw or that we tried to mitigate is really, of course, first the electrification for the fleet operators to go from something they know very well, which is running a diesel fleet, to a fleet based on electric. There is a number of things they don't know: charging infrastructure, battery lifetime, a number of things that is unfamiliar with them. So we wanted to see if we can make that easy for them. And the second thing is, as I maybe mentioned before, the safety issues, the safety for everybody around the vehicle, And maybe I said that we are concentrating on distribution vehicles. So in a city, last mile or last or mid-mile delivery. And anyway, there are studies in London made that say 4% of the traffic in London is trucks, but they stand for 58% of fatal accidents with bikers and something like 25% with pedestrians, which means it's horrible statistics. And that is, to a big part, is due to the design of a truck as it looks today. And the design is quite logical if you have, because the diesel engine and the gearbox is quite big pieces of metal, and you put that in front to maximize the load space in the back. And that means that the whole cab comes up, the driver is sitting about 3 meters above ground, and there are a number of blind spots around them. And the third sort of problem for the industry is really that obviously the driver profession is not super popular. So the business have problem recruiting people, which leads to a shortage of drivers. That is a fact today, and it's increasing year by year. I think in Germany, the average age of a truck driver is about 56 years old. So if they all go retiring, then half of them are gone in 5-10 years time. So that will be more and more acute. And there are reasons for that, because especially for distribution traffic, where the truck is stopping maybe 15, 20, 25 times a day, the driver has to, well, normally they jump down, and that leads to problems with hips and knees and joints, etc. The accident rate in the driver profession is in Sweden is about twice the general industry. Then there is it's quite a noisy environment. And it's a shaking environment. So they have difficulty to recruit people. So that is the kind of the fourth thing that we try to do something about. Coming to the design that we saw on the video, which is facilitated by us starting from scratch, or based on an electric drivetrain, which means that the motor is much smaller. In our case, we put it on the rear axle. We have the batteries under the box in the back, which liberates us to do whatever we want with the cab, which, as you saw, we have lowered considerably. So it's more or less egress and ingress as at the same height as the bus. And we have maximized the glazing around the driver. So the blind spots are, I shouldn't say 100% eliminated, but much, much reduced. We're putting the driver in the center of the cab, so he or she can actually exit on the payment side also, not only on the traffic side. We have sliding doors instead of opening doors and so on. So all that is to make the truck much safer, much more comfortable for the driver to drive. And we then, what we have, we are developing a business model that we call Truck as a Service, which is basically trying to include as much as possible in the service package that we are offering our customers. So they do not all have to be experts on charging infrastructure and all the different components. Over time, short term, we're doing capital sales, but we are discussing with financing companies, etc., to go over time over to a full, basically a rent model on a long-term contract. So the hurdle, because today the investment cost for any electric vehicle is higher than a diesel. But of course, the idea is that the lifetime cost will be about, or in our case, we're looking at similar to what they call truckers. They call them, the total lifetime cost of a truck, and by lower energy cost, lower service and maintenance, etc. So that is what we want to do with the task. And so that I think is the roundup of what we are trying to offer the market.
Thanks a lot for the great brief. I suggest before going into question to switch to Tim and have a different perspective, focusing like a corporate, but also focusing on passenger, not on trucks. So
yeah, indeed.
Tim, over to you, please.
Let's present myself first. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this event. It's a great opportunity also to exchange on a very challenging but exciting subject. When it comes to me, I'm French Dutch. I started my career not in the automotive industry at all. I started in consulting and then in luxury goods, so pretty far away from automotive. And the second part of my life was in automotive, where I started in after-sales services and then joined an OEM, but part of the car, the tire, pretty important piece of the car, especially when it comes to CO2 emission. And that's where I met Johan, and we worked there on the transformation journey of Bridgestone, the leader of the tire industry. And then I joined the final product, I would say, the automotive, started to work a few years for Toyota. I was in charge of Belgium and Luxembourg, and now since now 2 years actually, I'm heading Eastern Europe for Renault Group, and developing actually the business for them in Eastern countries. Now, when it comes to Renault, before showing you a small film about Renault also and what we're doing, Renault, everyone knows the brand Renault. But we have plenty other brands, because Groupe Renault is first Renault, but it's also Dacia, it's Lada, it's Alpine in the premium segment. It's passenger cars, but it's also light vehicle trucks. So not big toys like the ones Carl is working on, but the smaller ones who are also sometimes doing last mile deliveries, and it's pretty important in our business. So it's about 55 billion euros turnover. We're present everywhere in the world, I would say, and we have started our journey, electric journey, a few years ago. But before starting to explain you where we are and what are I would say our big let's say challenges, I propose that we show a little bit the small film about what we're doing.
All right, let me see how fast I am. Okay, I hope you can see the screen, and I hope you get the sound. Okay.
Yeah, so everyone's, I don't want to repeat what Carl said, but everyone knows that the world is changing, and the climate is
with e-commerce, you can do.
I hear some. The world is changing, and we're facing huge climate changes. Actually, the world is expected to be 10 billion humans in 2050. 70% of those people will be in cities. We estimate that we will have 3 billion cars all around the world, and all the pollution linked to that, and the traffic jam, the congestion, is a big issue. So we know also that the governments are putting a lot of regulation in place. Some big cities are also banning the classical combustion engine by 2030. See, it seems pretty far, 2030, but it's 10 years from down the road, so it's not so far away. And on top of that, they are putting a lot of regulation to oblige OEMs like us to also decrease the number of CO2 grams or CO2 emissions we are putting on the market. So if you look an average car this year or last year, I would say it was 140 grams CO2 emission, and we're invited by 2030 to reduce by more than 2 the emission per car. So all that has obliged us as an industry to reduce quite drastically the CO2 emission, and this goes with changing totally our approach and developing, I would say, new engines and going to electric. When I say electric, electric is not only electric cars. Can be hydrogen, as you saw in the film. It could be plug-in hybrids, or it could be hybrids. So there's a lot of different technologies when we talk about electrifications of car. But these are tools to enable us also to meet the ambition that is put by the government, and we as a company wants also to commit to that. I would say when it comes to Renault, we have started our journey a long time ago, actually. If I take one big example that is known on the market is Tesla. Tesla was founded in 2003 and have launched their first car in 2012. So it's now nearly 8 years ago. And actually we have started exactly the same journey, and we have launched, but our first electric car, the Zoe, exactly at the same period in 2012. Not starting with the same type of customers, because we started from the bottom of the range, where Tesla started with a high-end product, but we have already started our electrified journey quite a long time ago, and we continue also this long journey with one example that we are trying always to disrupt the market, and we will launch as of January the first extremely affordable electric car on the market. Under the brand Dacia. So you will have a first electric car with a pretty large range of 200 kilometer, and this for less than 15,000 euros without subvention. So in a lot of countries, especially in Europe, you have large subventions to support the purchase of an electric car. This will mean in some countries that you could have an electric car less than 10,000 euros as of January. So it's also another disruption that we put on the market coming soon. Now, when it comes to the car, the future of the car is clearly electric, but we love to say in our industry, especially in passenger cars, that the future of the car should be CASE. C-A-S-E means connected, autonomous, shared, and electric. And that's where most of the OEMs are working on to prepare the future and to propose a new, I would say, a new approach of mobility to the customer. The second or the last point I want to mention on our side is that we are an OEM manufacturer. Clearly, we're producing cars and we are selling cars, and we are used to that. More than 120 years we're doing that on the market. But I would say the whole value chain, the whole ecosystem is changing. And with electrification, we are working on a larger scale of the full ecosystem, I would say. So we are clearly working on cars, and I was explaining you briefly what we're doing on cars, but we're also working intensively on the rest of the ecosystem. First of all is infrastructure, and Carl mentioned that also. It's one of the hurdles to pass to electrification. We are developing a lot of offers on infrastructure, and we have also our own company to help and enable infrastructure within companies, but within also big cities that we are helping to do so. We are working on the car, what we call the vehicle to grid. So actually the idea is that most of the cars will not only be plugged on the infrastructure to pump, if I may say, electricity and to drive, but the idea is that each car will be a live battery and will then deliver also electricity to the grid. So enabling you, for example, to go with your car to your work or to go for your grocery, come back, plug into your house, and then your car will be your battery to lighten your house, to warm your house, whatsoever. So, and will be recharged during the night. So this is the whole vehicle to grid approach that we're developing on the subject. We are working also intensively on car sharing solution, because we said the car should be shared at some point. At Renault, we're developing a strong car sharing approach. We are in Europe the leader in electrified car sharing. We have more than 8,000 electrified car on duty as car sharer. We have our own car share company in Madrid and in Paris, but we're also partnering with all big famous car share across Europe in big cities. And last but not least, because, and this is most of the time a subject that is also linked to electricity, electricity equal battery, battery is very dirty to produce, and what is the life cycle of the battery, what do you do with the battery afterwards? And we're working quite intensively on that also to bring a second life to the battery. You may probably know, but the battery has a very, very long life cycle. And actually, most of the time, you use only 25% of the capacity of a car within 15 years of a car. So you use a car 15 years. At the end of the life cycle, you still have 75% of the capacity of the battery. And what we do is that we are thinking now and designing a business model to use those batteries as storage for, let's say, factories, for example, and other utilities, to have a second life on those batteries and a longer life. And the last point is about recycling. Batteries are made out of cobalt, nickel, and copper, that are metals that are most of the time not very, I would say the extraction, etc., is pretty complex. Actually, today the batteries of at least the Renault batteries we are able to recycle 80% of those heavy metals within the battery. So we are reusing 80% of cobalt, nickel, and copper for different usage afterwards, after the life cycle of the battery. So this is the whole ecosystem that we're working on. And when we talk most of the time about mobility, mobility is one element of our transformation as an OEM, but we're intensively working on developing the full ecosystem and the rest of the activity around the mobility. You have your mic cut, Yuan.
Thank you very much. Indeed, also great overview of your developments. And I think from here we can take it into more open discussion. And maybe I can ask first a couple of questions that we received already from the participants. And yeah, then you could engage directly with Carl if you're interested about their effort into trucks. So you see different perspective of insights. So let's see one question. What networking capabilities do you develop to get full value from the ecosystem? You can choose who takes the question. If you want me, I can repeat. It's not clear enough.
No, I didn't. I didn't really understand your question applicable to us.
So I'll repeat. Basically, somebody is asking, what networking capabilities do you develop to get the full value from the ecosystem?
Network capability. So it's mainly lobbying, at least for us. I would say the electrification and the changes will not happen only within OEM. So at least on our side, it's a three-party approach. You need to convince the end consumer, and it's a big change. Most of the people are used to use combustion engine, and they're not automatically use and willing. There's some hurdles still. Is the range sufficient? How do you have the infrastructure and so on? So to to solve this issue, you need to convince governments to support also the purchase of cars, and you need infrastructure. And for that, you have a three-party approach, working with the lobbying, networking, I would say, with government to really make them understand that without infrastructure and without a strong willingness to push electrification, this will not happen. And then you have also network, or at least convince consumer also to pass and to change and to enter the new world, and not to be afraid about what will happen. That's on our side.
Okay.
I mean, we as a startup, we don't have too much resources, etc. But I think we have got a very a lot of people are interested in this movement, basically. So I think we have got very good reactions and so on. We're working with Transport for London in London and trying the mayor's office in Paris. That are the two cities where we start. Maybe I said that before. And then, of course, more, I mean, in the long run, consumers demand from, say, retailers. They are interested in their footprint, etc. So, and retailers then come to our customers, or the ones that actually use our trucks, which is the distributors, etc., or the logistics companies, and then they come to us. I don't say there is, I mean, my feeling is that all these parties want to go in the same direction. There is nobody really loving diesel, etc. But I think most people, and I think that's a change over the last few years, maybe, that is becoming more top of mind generally in society. And of course, for us, it's very important what the authorities or the cities, what rules and regulations they are putting in place. That is, I mean, that is really call to action for many of this chain. Paris is the prime example for us, where they are saying that 1st of January 2024, they should ban diesel within the ring road A86. And I think there is at least 4, 5, 6 million people living in there. So anybody delivering into that area, of course, has to start thinking about how are they going to manage this after within 3 years, more or less. So that is a big factor, but I have a feeling that is generally in society. And we, of course, the idea is that you try to reach out with the message as much as possible, that we are an alternative. There is alternatives on the market, and that we can together do something better.
Okay. I have another question here. It's a bit related to the first, but it has a spin-off. Could you share your views on the need to accelerate deployment of charging infrastructure to support EVs penetration globally? Any views on the need for mobile charging systems?
Well, if I start this time, we don't really see that much, because our customers, they go back to base more or less every evening. They stand in a depot somewhere, and for example, in France, it's either almost in Chambéry or Angers. I don't know what there is in Brussels, but that this kind of industry that we are addressing are quite clustered in distribution centers, etc. But as it works today, more or less everybody come back in the evening at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and then they stand there overnight. So there is where we will install our charging infrastructure, and then they have often 8 hours or 9 hours to top up, and then they should drive during the day. So the need for mobile and even the need for our applications, the need for public charging is not there. I think it's very, very different for you, Tim, but that is in our business case. What we hope is, and a lot of this, why they have to stand still during the night, is also regulation. That in a city like Stockholm, for example, distribution trucks are not allowed to drive between 10 o'clock in the evening and 6 in the morning. so they cannot be in the city center, which obviously gives the number of hours that we can charge over time. And one of the big factors for that is, of course, that it's noisy. And of course, if the noise level go down, probably we can expand those hours anyway. And then you can go more two shift and so on. But that's the situation today.
Actually, on our side, infrastructure is a myth. But the problem is that you cannot compete against a myth. Actually, today's average range of cars is around 400 kilometers. And on average, as a consumer, you drive 20, at least in big cities, you drive 20 kilometers a day. So you can charge and drive all week long without any problem. But the myth is that most of the people are scared about the fact that they could fall without any, I would say, energy in the middle of nowhere and spend there the whole night. The second point is that with the new batteries, with a normal plug, no specific installation, you can recharge your car within 5 hours. So if you drive to the office and you have some infrastructure there, and when I say infrastructure, a basic plug, you can overday charge your car and again be at 100% of charging capacity. The only problem is when you do long traject, so more than 400 kilometers, and here you don't have superchargers everywhere that could enable you to recharge fast, as you are used to when you go on holiday. You stop at the petrol station within 3 minutes and a coffee, you can drive and continue your journey. Here with an electric car, without a supercharging solution, it will take slightly more time. And this is actually one of the pain points that people are afraid of. But again, it's in a way a myth, because you are not doing that on a daily basis. Now, everyone is working also on the new generation of batteries. There's a few things that should come, some very interesting breakthrough that should come in the coming years, and that will enable also a faster charging of the battery. But this will come. But today, I think it's more about giving the impression to the population that you have infrastructure everywhere that enables you to recharge to a certain point your car. The most important thing is to have at least a charging capacity, I will call it a charging capacity at home or at the office. And that's where we actually work quite intensively also with companies to ensure that we're proposing charging solutions, easy charging solution, not big supercharger, normal, a little bit more than a classical plug, to enable also charging station when you are at the office. Also although with the COVID, it's probably a subject that is a little bit paused for the time being, but we expect people to go back to the office at some point.
Another question, more specific, targeted to Volta. How will Volta, great concept by the way, address the actual engineering, production and assembly of the vehicles, which is a major hurdle for all car and truck startups, speaking out of experience?
Yeah, and that's of course, it's a very good question. What we are doing, I would say that I call it almost the Apple iPhone way of doing things. So what we do with the design, we engineer, and we are right now signing up, existing truck and bus manufacturers. We are looking at having two when we go into production, and we're looking at different parts of Europe right now. But our idea is to contract manufacture, basically have somebody else that is experienced and have the facilities, the plant and equipment, etc., to do the assembly for us, and then we take care of it when it comes to basically the market. If we then more specifically when it comes to engineering as such, that we do partially in-house, but we also, of course, I think 30% of the people on the technical side would be consultants that, of course, when in this engineering phase, you have different competencies that you need, etc. And I think, I mean, honestly, that is not so different from any big OEM. There are very skilled consulting companies. We are working with Avery in Sweden and EDAG in Germany and some in the UK, etc. So yeah, so that is, but of course we also will build our own staff when it comes to engineering. And out of, we are only 16 people right now, but I think 12 of them are on the engineering side. So we're quite focused on that. So a lot of in-house engineering and design, and then contract manufacturing when it comes to manufacturing.
Okay, and a quick follow-up for you, if you have any plans to build an autonomous truck.
Yeah. Autonomous in the way of autonomy 5, I don't think we will see or being able to drive within the next few years, 5 almost up to 10 years in our application. So we are in a city distribution and with, as I said, maybe 15, 20, 25 drops a day. So somebody in the present system anyway, somebody has to load and offload the truck. So we need a person in the truck for some time. That is not to say that we don't like autonomous 2, 3, 4, because that facilitates for the driver not having to spend the whole day basically holding the steering wheel and looking forward, can do other tasks at the same time. I mean, they can be much more of a mobile office. It's also, you know, in big cities like, for example, Paris, most of the distribution traffic doesn't drive more than, well, somewhere between 30 and maybe 70 kilometers a day, which means that the average speed is almost nothing. So there is, I think it would be very interesting for a driver later on to, of course, be able to do more tasks when they actually are out in the traffic. And that's why we welcome and try to facilitate for autonomous as much as possible. But as I said, replacing the driver, I think, will take time for our application.
Okay. And another question, what about fuel cell technology? How are you looking into the future at this?
You want to take the lead on this one, or?
You go ahead.
Okay. It's really promising. So fuel cell technology is hydrogen, so-called hydrogen technology also, that you find where a lot of OEMs are working on. Also, it's pretty promising because actually it's also zero emission in a way. There's still some difficulties on the technology itself that is pretty costly, because today the only cars that are available, and when I take passenger cars, it's more for the time being going to the light commercial vehicle. When it comes to Renault, there's a few other OEMs. The first one being Toyota, who has developed one hydrogen car, the Mirai, was available on the market. The car cost 60,000 euros. The first generation was 80,000 euros. So it's not for everyone. So the technology is still extremely expensive, but the beauty of this technology is that you have the good side of both worlds. The old world, where you can tank in 3, 4, or 5 minutes without waiting hours and have zero emission. So it's the best world of electric and the classical combustion engine that we all know. So it's pretty promising. Now the thing is that we will see there's a lot of technology going on, electrification, hydrogen, other things are going on also, and it's mainly a matter of priorities in terms of investment. You imagine that it costs a hell of money also to work on developing a car and investing in those type of technology. So at some point you need to choose your battles, and we will see which one will come out. But it's, for us actually at Renault, we are looking at also very very intensively, and it's promising.
From our side, I would say, well, firstly, as I said, time to market is important. So our supply chain has to be existing. We are not a research project, like guys like Renault have the deep pockets to do. We have to try to, what we are seeing, we try to take the best and the latest on the market, but it has to be proven technology. And then assemble that and basically being able to bring it to the customer as soon as possible. So that's general. Then when it comes to hydrogen, obviously, and hydrogen is not as developed yet. It might have a bright future, but we, as Tim said, we don't know. The infrastructure is obviously almost non-existing today. So that is a problem. And as I said, the way this with filling in, as you say, 3 minutes, it's for our customers, the way the industry works today is not a big issue. So they have 8 hours to stand and slow charge, more or less. So the quick charging or the filling or whatever is not a very strong argument. But what is a very strong argument is the cost, basically total cost of ownership, as they say in the business. That is key. So and as long as the customers are not prepared to pay a lot more for that, or the customers of our customers are not prepared to pay a lot more for hydrogen, they will not come to the market, I think. So yeah. I think it will take time. It's probably more interesting for long haul, and the same thing with autonomous. I think when you sit on a motorway for 5 hours or something like that, then you don't really need a driver. Autonomous, I think, has much bigger chances. But in city centers, with a lot of things happening, and bikers coming all over the place, and pedestrians, etc., my judgment is that it will take time.
Okay, thank you. One other question. Our trucks drive 24 hours out of 24 with only very limited pauses. We're looking into electrification of our fleet. However, the big issue is the time needed for charging. What evolution is to be experienced regarding the charging times?
Well, for me, this doesn't seem to be the distribution business case. It's probably long haul. Driving from Stockholm to Rome or something like that, or Brussels or whatever. But what I see for that, so you have faster charging, of course, but that is a much more expensive than the slow charging. And then, you have to maybe, there are other OEMs that are looking at this, you can, whatever they call it, charging motorway or something you can drive, and it's induction charging. There is, Scania is developing something that you should have on like the old trams, etc. And that is probably, could happen. I think the same thing, the investment cost will be enormous. And somebody has to pick that up. I don't think the customers want to pay for it straight away. They would like to have the government to pay for it or somebody else, and that might happen. But in our business case, I don't see anybody driving 24 hours a day. In Stockholm, as I said, you're not allowed. So
yeah. Actually, there's a follow-up on that. It's a question from Philippe Vartel, and he adds that no, it's actually a very local transport. But I'll let him get in touch with you afterwards and have another discussion.
Well, as I said, it's a balance between the cost of the charging, I think, and then you have to make money out of it. Then.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to have any questions to each other? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this second life, because I can see in the future, and some of the big distribution companies are already asking us, they would like to have more. They often have big roofs, so they could have sun panels. They could, of course, the sun is in there during the day when the trucks are out servicing, and they stand in the depot during night. And the ideal would be to have battery capacity, second life batteries. But how developed is that today? How many, or you maybe, how many % of your batteries have you gotten back yet, basically, or is it for the future?
Well, as I said, the first Zoes we've put on the market was back in 2012. Now we have sold since then more or less 300,000 Zoes. So we have plenty of cars on the road, and we got already a few cars back. And in parallel, we are also testing batteries that are, I would say, second life, not automatically from the car, but that we're testing also as a second life. So with the natural usage of the car, the life cycle battery that we're testing, we're using them. We have, as an example, and I could share with you probably of the meeting, we are testing in Porto Santo. It's the island in Madeira, in front of part of Portugal, but more close to Africa. It's an island that decided to be 100% zero emission. So they're targeting within 5 years to be 100% zero emission, self-sufficient. So thanks to the sun, indeed, when you're in Madeira, you have a lot of sun. So they are getting the sun, getting the electricity on the sun, putting that on big batteries that we provide, the second life batteries of cars, and the island is only equipped by electrified cars. And the cars are also connected to the grid to produce and provide electricity during the night to most of the building. So we have this project with the island that we have developed 1 year ago, and we give us 3 years to make it 100% live. So it's ongoing. We have a lot of projects ongoing a little bit everywhere on the life cycle battery. This is one of the big projects we have, but we're working intensively, and it's already quite live. And most of our factories also, we are using the second life battery also to support the production of cars, because we are storing also some electricity through the panel. And we have developed also a startup that provides a full set of solution with the solar panel you're talking about, to provide that also to customers. So it's already live. In other words, we have a lot of different projects ongoing and a lot of interest from companies, mainly from B2B customers, because they're really interested into this full ecosystem to ensure that the zero emission is not only on the car, but on the full set of service. So happy to share also and to give you some insight on that.
We would like to offer that to, I mean, we have already the questions coming from the companies, and especially the last one you said, I mean, the full concept with the sun panels and then the batteries, etc. So that's an excellent use, I think, definitely.
It's really expected by B2B customers, especially.
Yeah.
And consumers are more focused on the mobility solution you're proposing, but when it comes to B2B, they are keen also to have a full understanding and a full optimization of the total of the total solution, I would say. And this is where we're working on, and this is also evolving our business model, not only producing cars, like I said, but going the direction of selling full set of solution, not just a car.
Excellent. No. And I mean, off-grid, everybody wants to be off-grid, so that's great.
Your mic is off, Jan.
Maybe time for one last question, because 1 hour passed already. So do you have a question for Carl, or otherwise I have a question for you.
Okay.
Since I'm coming from innovation consulting, being my passion, question for both of you. What is the approach to innovation for you? do you have like formal processes, organizational structure? Of course, it's very different. You're a corporate team, and Carl is entrepreneur. So I don't know. Does he employ a process, or is more gut feeling? So I'd like to hear your insights on that.
Well, I would love to have it more structured, but honestly not. As I said in the beginning, I think going out and talking to the customers is a good start, and trying to see what the problems are, and obviously, can you do something about that? And then come back. And in our process, we have, even from the design, we have, I mean, before, when we try to focus on the problems, number one, but also in the design, we have invited customers, and we actually built what they call a wooden back, so you could sit in the cab, and we invited drivers, etc., for simple things, but where the screen should be, where the height of the chair, and things like that. And we do that also now when we go into customer cases. We have lined up with a partner, or Siemens as an infrastructure partner, so we're going together and look at their driving pattern, and how many kilometers they do, and all that, to try to optimize the electrification for them. And of course, also going forward, today, maybe if they have 70 trucks in the depot, they will not replace all of them in the first year. They will probably do that over a few years, and how do then the electricity and the electricity supply, how do you want to upgrade that over time? So it's basically more, I would say, applied research and development, if I put it that way.
Okay. And Tim, what about?
Yeah, on our side, for sure, big corporation means most of the time big money and big resources. So we have clearly also an approach at any time, any, let's say, level of the organization. We try to foster also innovation. So we are also like Carl, trying to listen also to our customers, and developing also needs that are fitting their needs, I would say, or their wishes. That's one thing. But then when it comes also to the group level, we have some very strong structure and governance. At Renault, we have invested in 3 innovation labs that are based a little bit all over the world. One in Paris, one in the Silicon Valley, and one in Tel Aviv. So Israel, who is pretty known also for innovation, especially when it comes to digital and let's say technical solutions. So we have here innovation labs. What are those innovation labs? They are partnering with universities, scientists, and startups, and everyone is pitching, and they're working all together to foster new innovation with classical design thinking tools that you can have across the world. But what is interesting is that we are trying to base ourselves across the world to catch all the behaviors and all the trends we could see. And last but not least, as a big corporation, we have also an alliance venture. When I say alliance venture, because I said Renault is a big group, but we are part also of an alliance. So it's a cross, I would say, ownership between brands with Renault, Nissan, and Mitsubishi all together. We have cross shareholding. And we have a alliance venture altogether that is investing also in startups and specific projects to support also the future and the future technology and trends. That's more or less for the innovation. So I would say the big approach, and locally also we try to foster innovation, because the best way for me is also to listen to customers and to customers' needs and try to answer to them.
Okay. I think that concludes the evening. Thank you very much, both of you, for taking the time to participate. It was a very interesting discussion. Thank you, all the participants, for being with us. I'd like to invite you to our next event as well. probably in December or January, we plan to organize an event on healthcare with Novartis and Materialize, their healthcare unit. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any suggestions for next event. And please follow the LinkedIn group and the YouTube channel In the Making. We'll share the details with you with a quick link to a short survey that helps us to improve the events. So thanks a lot, everybody, and see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if anybody have a question, I would be interested, obviously, to follow up regarding the 24-hour and some other questions here. So the easiest is, I don't know if you send that out, but the easiest would be to just email me on cm@voltatrucks.com.
I could provide, if you want, your email in the email we send to people, and yeah,
same for me also. If there's any additional questions or subjects someone wants to talk about, with great pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Bye.